Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first Public Policy Committee call for 2024. I know a couple of folks are going to be trickling in, so if there are any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. We have 5 different speakers today, again, moving towards that roundtable format that we discussed at the end of last year, bringing in diverse perspectives, different organizations with varied missions to really dive deeper on a couple of different levels for each of the conversations versus just offering one perspective seemed to be of the most interest at our last Public Policy Committee meeting in December. So kicking off this election year, talking about voter engagement, civic engagement, voter education, and empowerment, there's a lot of different levels to that work. So inviting multiple organizations to share their mission, their work, and their priorities for this year. It's an interesting year. There are a lot of different perspectives on any given policy issue. There are a lot of different sources of information on any specific topic, and depending on where you look, you might be, looking for difference between federal and state government versus how can I register versus how can I become a poll worker for this year. And as nonprofit organizations, I know a lot of you get questions from clients and individuals you serve, even partner organizations, about what types of events you're hosting. Are you doing legislative breakfasts? Are you engaging with your clients and making sure that they're informed? So again, just to go through the whole range of issues and potential questions that could come up. We invited 5 organizations to participate and really lead the call and discussion this morning. Black Women's Policy Center, we're joined by the founder and CEO, Rochelle Jackson. From Committee of 70, which is a statewide organization, we're joined by Tanisha Bazoo, the program director, local president of our League of Women Voters, Michelle Knoll, Pump executive director, Josiah Gilliam, and the Voter Empowerment, Education, and Enrichment Movement founder and CEO, Marin Formley. There are a range of present expertise and experience that these individuals bring to their organizations, but going through what we're hoping to talk about today, I'll be leading a roundtable discussion to our speakers. Please don't feel pressure to answer every single one of these questions, but any of them that speak to you or that you really want to make sure our participants today are familiar with, please feel free to dive right in. And to our participants, if you could add your name and organization to the chat, just so everyone can see who's on the call, please do so now. And then as you have questions or additional information that you want to dig a little deeper in, please add those to the chat as well. Just as kind of a quick intro, I know I gave a very brief introduction for each of you. If you wouldn't mind, 2 minutes, what are your organization's missions, and what are some of the responsibilities in your role that make you really excited about civic engagement and voter participation? And I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see each of you as well. And I'm going to go ahead with left to right here. Michelle, you are first on my screen.
Thank you for inviting the League of Women Voters. Our main mission is to empower voters and to defend democracy. And that is really what we're going to be all about this year. This is a key election year, and we feel that there are some serious threats to those particular parts of our mission. And we have close to 300 members, and we serve the greater Pittsburgh region. And I'm sorry, I forgot what else you wanted me to tell you. We are an all-volunteer organization except for one administrative assistant who I believe you spoke to on the phone. And we have lots and lots and lots of partners, some of whom are on this panel, that we work with in different varieties of activities and events, and getting information out. And that's really one of the things we're going to do most, is getting information to people, especially low information voters, so that they can make some decisions. Did I cover what all you had suggested, or was there something
You're
else?
all set. Nope, that's
Okay.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Josiah, you are up next on my screen.
Very good. Happy Thursday, everybody. Emily, thank you for convening us and for inviting me and Pump to participate. We appreciate that. And good to be on a call with so many familiar faces. Excited to get into this discussion. We have worked with each of the organizations, featured today, and excited to talk about what 2024 could look like. As Emily mentioned, I'm the executive director for an organization called PUMP. We're a nearly 30-year-old community, civic engagement, and recreational organization here in Pittsburgh. We have a bunch of different facets, but we broadly engage with young professionals. We use that term loosely. I could talk more about that. Our largest program is the Pittsburgh Sports League, but we also do candidate forums for mayoral races, countywide races, and try to switchboard people into a greater sense of civic awareness and civic participation. And this conversation comes at a unique and exciting time for us. As Michelle mentioned, 2024 is a pivotal year for all of us. And so we've been having a dynamic conversation at the staff, partner, and board level about how we show up this year. And we have some ideas on how we're going to do that, ideally, quite frankly, with all of you. And so we welcome the discussion. But that's us.
Thank you so much. Tanisha, would you mind going next from Committee of 70?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And possibly my very temperamental young pug who is running around and scratching. So apologies ahead of time. My name is Tanisha Bijou. I'm from Committee of 70. I'm the program director there. For those who might not be familiar with Committee of 70, we are a nonpartisan nonprofit that started in Philadelphia. We're now statewide. We have been around for almost 120 years. And our focus is making sure that every eligible voter is able to vote, is informed when they have to vote, how to vote, and we want them to be able to vote with confidence. I'm a former teacher here in Philadelphia, and so I'm really excited about my role as a leader of voter engagement and education. And to that end, we're really excited to partner with some amazing organizations on poll worker recruitment and outreach. We're also doing some fireside chat conversations with All Voting is Local. We did those in 22. We're going to bring those back again to talk about mis and disinformation campaigns. We've done really great work with Hit Cyber about the post-election playbook, like what happens after you cast your vote. Also, we've been working with Hit Cyber to learn more about ERIC and to send that information out to people, electronic registration information system. So we really just want to make sure that we are letting voters know about what happens before elections, what happens to your ballot throughout the whole process, both for primary and general.
Thank you so much. And Rochelle, you are up last. Thank you for parking because I was nervous. We're going to be presenting while driving.
No, I am parked. But thank you for the invite. Glad to be here amongst so many amazing panelists having this very important discussion today. This is a very important pivotal year, but for us at the Black Women's Policy Center, we do this work year round. This is not just about an election for us. It really is about centering Black women. So again, I am the founding CEO for the Black Women's Policy Center. We are a new organization. We are 4 years old, well, 3 years old technically, but I do not come this work. I've been doing this work for 25 years. So I'm not new to this. I'm true to this, as some people would say. But after 25 years or more of doing public policy advocacy and fighting, for social justice, it became very clear to me that Black women weren't getting any further ahead, that we were still, experiencing extreme disparities and injustices and oppression and inequities in this country, more importantly in this region. So it was very clear that we needed to really, first and foremost, really empower Black women and build collective power among Black women in this region. And secondly, to really build an agenda, a policy agenda that really addresses the disparities that Black women are facing in this region. And so some of our most significant and impactful social justice movements in this country have been led by Black women, like back in the abolitionist movement, Voters' Rights Act, even the Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter. But as I know, we are yet still the most unprotected, undervalued, and misrepresented in this country, and more importantly in this region. And so it was very clear to me that no one was coming for us, that we needed to really come together and build our collective power and really demand, and return on the investments that we've made in this country and in democracy. And so that's really what we're about. We do that in a lot of different ways, but I know we're going to get into that throughout our discussion. But happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Rochelle.
Hey, Emily, I know I
yep,
said
go ahead,
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I do just want to on behalf of the Public Policy Committee and the whole Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnership, thank you to our panelists for being here and participating and spreading this important stuff. So thank you. Now I'm going to mute myself now.
You're good. I was going to say, I'm glad that you are moved to speaking to our panelists and saying thank you, because that means we're off to a great start, and that we absolutely selected the right folks to appear this morning to speak to all of these issues, or this afternoon, I should say, to speak to all of these issues, because it's clear not just from the missions of your organizations, but your experiences that you bring to those roles, and your passion about keeping people informed and educated and changing lives for the better through civic engagement. So thank you. And I'll jump right into the conversation. I think Michelle did a great job at the beginning of saying, this is a key election year. There are a lot of, different narratives coming up about, and Tanisha, when you talked about mis and disinformation, there's a lot of different levels to engaging with this, what types of information. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, to all of our panelists, what are some of your organization's key activities specific to this election year, and does that look a little bit different in terms of the resources that you're providing than what you have in the past, to kind of address that new lens for civic engagement and what it looks like in 2024. And I'm going to spotlight all of you real quick for the participants. Do any of you want to take that question first?
Well, I can talk about what the league is doing. We do have forums every year, candidate forums, but we also, in this particular year, our website is gearing up to really deal with a lot of the dis and misinformation that is out there. And we have already entered many things on the website in anticipation of that, as well as information about the specific election. And we always carry things about how voters can find their polling place, how voters can know how to register and whether they're going to register by mail. We have specific step-by-step infographics on that. And it is at lwvpgh.org. And, it on this previous election, which was what we call an off year, nobody here thinks it's an off year, but was considered an off year. We had 15,000 hits the day of the election on our website, looking for information, primarily on the judges and then also the raises for the county council. Those were the two big issues that people looked at. But I think what we're doing different is trying to get as much information out as we can to as many different groups as we can. And that includes seniors, faith-based, seniors in high rises. We do door hangers for them, in large print. We do candidate forums. We do ready, set, vote bags for schools. We do civic education programs in schools and colleges. We print, we have the New Times Courier print the voter guide, and that's now going, it's not only in the New Times Courier, we get it in a lot of different areas. And for the first time last year, we started supplying it to colleges and universities in the area so that they had that. That is also online on our website. But I think we're just feeling like we just want everybody to know all the things that they could possibly ask about. And then yet there's still something that comes up that we don't supply. And my own son-in-law said, well, why didn't you have on your website when I pulled over on my way to the polls? So there's always something we don't think about, but we are analyzing that and adding that to the website when we need to.
If I could jump in and piggyback off of what Michelle was saying, it's so specifically, I was moved by the on the way to the polls. As a judge of election, I'm there bright and early, and occasionally before I started with Committee of 70, I would, do all my research, write all my little pieces of paper, all my info, and then leave it on my counter, and then have to have my husband run back and go and get my materials, because I can't vote without that. I don't know. And so now that I'm at Committee of 70, one of the resources that I pitch to everyone is our Build Your Ballot tool. And during the even years, that we do make sure that that research goes that tool is available statewide. The Build Your Ballot tool asks residents, as voters, for their address, and then it shows you your specific ballot ahead of time. We have our fellows and interns do research on the candidates. I send out surveys to candidates, and then we publish that. We try to do like short interviews with different candidates so that people can see and prep ahead of time, all in one place, who's going to be there, research to their handles or social media handles, so that they can just get to know who will be on their ballot before they get there, so that it is nonpartisan. It's different than all of the mailers that you may get, et cetera. So that is a tool that I think is incredible. We're starting that right now. We hope to have that live the beginning of March, so that people can make informed decisions. And then the second tool that I'm really proud of is something that I'm in charge of at Committee of 70. It's our We Vote partner program. So with We Vote, it is our hub of nonpartisan voter engagement resources for nonprofits, businesses, schools, registered community organizations, where weekly I send out just dates that are important, links to all of the amazing people on this call and their resources. We love the league. There's always so many amazing things that if we don't have, we just want to amplify the voices of others who have really great resources. And then also ideas for how organizations can really build upon their role as a trusted messenger. It's becoming even more of an expectation from employees that their employer is civically engaged, is taking a stand, and oftentimes schools and organizations don't have the wherewithal to do all of that research on their own. And so that's where we want to just help out with, here's the information that you can provide to your staff and your members. So both the Build Your Ballot tool, which helps individuals see their ballot beforehand, prep, research their ballot. You can have that emailed to yourself so that you don't need your loved one to run back home to get your little piece of paper, or the We Vote resource, either through emails with lots of resources, or you can have someone from our team do virtual meetings that walk you through our resources like Build Your Ballot. We really want to help make sure that people can feel as confident as possible when they're going into the booth.
Thank you. And Josiah, I know you spoke about, PSL and kind of the different arms of PUMP related to voter engagement and education. What does that look like?
Yeah, so just to take a step back and kind of provide some context on last year, PUMP first and foremost is about civic engagement and community. That's how it was started. It was young people advocating for a seat at the table, advocating for Pittsburgh to become an ever more diverse and dynamic place. And we've had a couple set pieces over the years, like a mayoral forum when that race has come around. And last year we felt like, to Michelle's point, some folks might think it was an off year, but we thought it was an on year. A lot of races happening, especially at the county level. And so we put together a countywide candidate forum with the league, with BPEP, with VEEEM, with a number of great partners. I'll share in the chat our recap of how that went. You can see a video there. It was held at the Playhouse in Point Park University. Everyone running for county executive, district attorney, county controller, county treasurer came, and people could just come and meet them directly, hear directly from them. And then we had a moderated forum where people could kind of talk about the position from an education perspective. What does a county treasurer do? What does a county executive do? And then their pitch, why they think they would be the best candidate for that position, and what their vision was, especially on the lines of the mission of the organizations that we're partnering, to put it on. We are a nonpartisan organization, and we were very appreciative of the League of Women Voters, who made sure that we stuck to that. Didn't have to do too much work on our end, quite frankly. They were very helpful with guidelines and all of that. And it was terrific because, everybody not only showed up, but it was a chance to hear directly from these folks. And then we asked them to record encouragements to vote. Hi, I'm Sarah Namarato. Hi, I'm Erica Brusselars, and I'm running for such and such, but we want you to make sure that you educate yourself and get to the polls and make sure your voice is heard. And that was really well received. A little bit later on, in November of last year, we were invited to participate at the Obama Foundation Democracy Forum to learn about a lot of these same topics and to engage with partners from around the country and the world. And something that came up that resonates very strongly and kind of brings me back to your question, Emily, about this year, was some segments around the role of a trusted intermediary. And I think that's really what we are trying to be, as Pump. We do all these different things in community. We want people to get out and experience a good quality of life. We want them to meet new people. We want them to explore the city. We want them to learn about our nonprofit space. We want them to learn about elections that are happening and important initiatives. We don't want to direct them, politically, but we want to make sure to the extent possible that they're informed, that they're having a lot of opportunities to learn, and then ideally moving that into action. And so we want to kind of play the intermediary role. We want to build trust around the idea that if you're engaging with Pump around an election, it's less about us telling you who to vote for, but more about providing an opportunity for you to learn valid, relevant, and timely information, and ideally hear the voices and meet the people that are running for these important positions. So here we are in 2024. We've been approached about having another forum, of some sort. But we think that a big part of success this year is kind of what Michelle was talking about, which is digital resources and in particular media. So we've gotten some funding to start. Think of it as like a video podcast around the elections, around the primaries, and then around the general. So people get a sense of the relevant dates, a sense of the institutions and the levels of government that kind of foster and protect the institution of democracy, especially here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And then to engage around the races, themselves, so people have a chance to understand what's happening this year. And then the final piece is something we're on the committee of 70's committee for their ballot PA push, which is something that's important to our members, important to our board. And Tanisha, I'm sure, can talk much more about it than I can. But it's this idea of repealing a law that has closed off primaries in Pennsylvania. And we come at this from the perspective of we want as many people as possible to vote, to participate, and to be able to participate. And the Ballot PA initiative is squarely focused on that, where people would have a chance to choose what primary they would participate in. They couldn't just throw votes every which way, but it ideally would basically re-enfranchise a growing amount of Pennsylvanians that are currently shut out of the process. And if you look at the demographics, young professionals, young people in general, more likely to identify as politically independent or maybe not identify strongly with a candidate, African Americans, veterans as well. And so we feel like there's a chance to engage around that, especially around the primary, because it's starting to pick up steam in the state legislature as a way to bring more people into the conversation. And just to kind of wrap up here, Pennsylvania is hot. Pennsylvania is a critical state. It matters in each election. And our local and regional elections matter as well. Who the county executive is matters, who our county treasurer is matters, district attorney, et cetera. I'm not saying anything that anyone on this call, isn't aware of. But we want people to not only know that, but to feel like they can, gain valid information related to it and then move into action. And as far as, the future of democracy and the future of the Commonwealth, we feel like the more people participating, the better. And Allegheny County, quite frankly, as you all know, has done pretty well. There's a lot to be proud of when it comes to how we're showing up in elections across demographics, on year, off years, primary, generals. But we think more would be better, and we expect and hope to be busy this year.
Thank you. And Rochelle, I know you spoke specifically about better representing and helping Black women gain access to critical resources and information in a timely manner, in advance of the primary, in advance of general elections. What would you add to key activities that you have going on this year?
So one of the things that we've always focused on is engagement, civic engagement. And for us, civic engagement goes beyond just the vote, right? That's holding our elected officials accountable for really creating policy that really addresses the struggles and challenges, particularly that Black women are facing. So of course, we encourage voting. We've had, candidates forums. We've partnered with other organizations to do, candidates forums. Synergy is really important to us. So where there's opportunities to partner and collaborate, we're always there for that, or here for that. But one of the things we want to make sure that Black women understand is how important policy is in this whole sphere of civic engagement, right? So you get the person in the office, and then what happens then? So what we found is that a lot of them don't. And so we do our advocacy boot camp training a couple times a year to really just give Black women in particular. It's a free boot camp training, and it really just gives them, just sort of advocacy 101 and understanding public policy and how everything kind of connects, right? It's one thing to have a very charismatic person running for an elected office, but once that person's in that office, what is their job? To Josiah's point, like, what does a district attorney do? What does a judge do, right? What does a magistrate do? And also, how do you hold them accountable for making sure that they're doing what's in the best interest of you and the rest of your community, your family, and the rest of the community? And for Black women, we are the backbones of our families. We're also the backbones of our communities. And so the Black, basically Black turnout, for voting really is on the backs. We drive that. Black women drive, turnout for Black voting in our community. And so the more educated we are, the more empowered we are to not only, pull the lever or to write on a piece of paper, but to hold our elected officials accountable, the stronger we can turn out Black folks in the community and the better that they can make a connection. Because voting, for me, voting is connected to your life. How does, who you vote for connect to improvement or better quality of life for you? And that's what people don't often are not able to connect those dots. So we try to do that. And we feel like if we can train Black women, then they're training other folks in their community and their families. They're being advocates within their own communities, and they're empowering others. So it's each one teach one kind of a model. We've also partnered with some organizations where we've done some training for their clients and their constituents because they had a desire to want the folks that they work with every day to be more involved in advocacy and to be more knowledgeable about policy. And so that's something we do year round. But of course, this year we'll do that from the vein of really focusing on the importance of this upcoming election, understanding what's at risk, knowing what's important to you, and making an educated and informed choice. But more importantly, beyond that, making sure that you're vocal and that you're involved and you're engaged in civics and holding those folks accountable. And then we'll probably be we are restarting our podcast. We're going to use our podcast as another opportunity to educate folks about policy and how policy and voting are connected. When you say public policy, a lot of people, it's a loaded term, and a lot of folks are like, don't want to deal with that. I'll vote and then I'm done. You got the rest of that, right? But what I try to make Black women understand that in order for you to change your quality of life and the people around you, you have to be engaged. You have to be involved. They don't know what it's like to be you. And so that's why it's important to amplify your voice, to share your experience. You are the expert of your own experience. And so you have to tell your story. You have to be engaged. So we do drive that. We do, try to encourage a lot of that. So I anticipate we'll be doing some workshops and some forums as well, just to, generate some conversations and get some information out there for folks. We share as much information as we can from the league and any other organizations that have very helpful information. We do use that. We share that on our social media. We, share it on our website. And so we'll continue to do that. And like I said, synergy is always top of mind for us. So anytime we can do something collectively to really make a greater, impact, I'm always here for it.
Thank you. And from hearing each of you speak about your strengths, right? The areas where you focus. I'm hoping that folks on the call can kind of see the differentiation where you would go to BWPC versus League of Women Voters versus PUMP versus Committee of 70 for specific resources. But Michelle, you said this, and Tanisha, you said this during our scoping conversation as well, that there's always something that's not created, that that misses the mark. And so I'm wondering, as a convener of nonprofit organizations, what are some things that you are hoping folks employ? So I heard, media and content creation. When you're creating podcasts or these snippets or interviews with elected officials, how do you hope that nonprofits are actually employing those? Is it sharing them on LinkedIn? Is it sharing them with clients? Is it inviting folks to the town halls? I want to make sure that when we talk about empowering and mobilizing folks who are capable and have the capacity and responsibility to make some of these connections, that we're thinking with that end user in mind, and that if there's any sort of guidance or connection that I can share or reiterate, I want to make sure that we're doing so, that it's not just the individual voter, but to Rochelle's point, creating a community around civic engagement and making sure that we're connecting and empowering each other.
We do hope. I would be remiss in not saying that we have vote 411 So we hope that people share that widely because that's used quite a bit. We also have videos that we hope people share, and we have made a lot of stuff shareable. We also work with PCTV, but we allow them to share with all the community TVs or the public TVs in the region. We work with classroom programs. We had 62 high school presentations last year, and we had 6,000 ready, set, vote bags go out to students last year. But we also sent out happy birthday posters, and they go out to every school in Allegheny County, Beaver County, Butler County, Westmoreland County, and that has a QR code on it that we can track. And we had over 350 registrations from that QR code. So we hope that people hang those signs. We hope that, sometimes schools will call us and say, well, I didn't get that. And then we kind of say, well, did you look for it? Did you, so there are those kind of things that we hope that people will use, but we can't always guarantee that they will. We do legislative interviews with sitting legislators. We don't really publish the information we get from that, but what we do is we share our goals and hope that they will talk to us about their goals. And we also, for the very first time last year, we were hopeful to get into the Allegheny County Jail, and we were unable to actually get in because of a COVID outbreak. But we were able to put a short video on tablets that residents of the jail actually have to listen to before they get to what they want to do with the tablet. So we're hopeful that that continues and that we get in further. And we hope that sometimes getting into senior housing is difficult. We used to go in and actually hang the door hangers on the doors, so we give them to senior housing. That changed during COVID. And we hope that people then put them on the doors and that people follow, the directions we give them for how to vote, how to register. We also give out magnets at the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, drive-up sites, as well as walk-up sites. We had 10,000 magnets, and I think we gave out about 6,000 or 7,000 of those last year with information that doesn't change. It's not date specific. So we hope that people use the tools that we give them. And it sounds like from listening to the other panelists that people are using the tools that we give them. And then we also, we register new citizens at naturalization ceremonies. We'd like to register them there because then we know that they have registered, but we like to give them tools that they can go ahead and vote and carry on. So, we hope that they'll use that information. And we also have some stuff on our website, infographics about critical thinking skills. Is we hope that people will use critical thinking skills when they go through some of this stuff that they get on social media that they're not sure whether they can trust. And that's some of it is you put it out there and then it's out of your hands. You just have to have faith that someone is going to use it and get something out of it. But people do tell us if they don't like what we have on our website or if they don't like the information we give them. And then we try to adjust it to make it more appropriate for what people's needs are, if we can possibly. Oftentimes it's stuff on partisan issues. People want to know what candidate is what party, and we don't do that because we're not partisan. So.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, democracy is a team sport. We try to do as much as possible in partnership. I'll share a couple things in the chat to show how we did it. These are examples of posts. I mean, you guys can scroll and take a look at our social media in general. When we're making the flyer for the candidate forum, we're taking advantage of all the networks of the partners that are involved and get that multiplication effect where everyone has a different network. Sure, there's a Venn diagram, but we're trying to cast as wide a net as possible. And then as far as how we're trying to reach people, we try to lean into the current state of reality, which is people are on the internet by and large. So we try not to discriminate. We try to put our materials and our media in front of as many eyes as possible. We have a newsletter, we have a website, we do blogs and all that, but we use Twitter or X, we use Instagram, we use LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been huge for us. Recently, lots of engagement, on there, maybe a little bit different than what people are used to. Maybe that's why it catches people's eyes. But either way, we're open. If people's eyeballs are there and their attention is there, we want to put something that has a chance to, catch their eye, in the scroll. And then to the extent possible, we're trying to convene, but kind of step back. We'd love for folks to know that Pump is involved and is being active and is putting on these things. But it's more important for me to know that if you're coming to a Pump event, you had a chance to meet Sarah Namarato than it is to know that I helped put the event together, right? And so, like the one post I shared there, it's just I don't appear in it at all. None of our staff appears in it whatsoever. It's literally just the candidates of all kind of different races, judges and county executive, et cetera, encouraging you to vote in their amazing accents and in their own voices, and that really seems to cut through the noise. People feel like this is not all the TV political ads that we get inundated with, especially here in Pennsylvania. This is just these people that were there at a moment in time encouraging you to participate, and that seems to resonate pretty strongly. So I think the extent that we can all grow together is the recipe for success. It's not a one size fits all thing. It's a repeated action of more and more people kind of participating, bringing what they have to the table, and that's how we'll be successful.
Thank you. And I feel like that's a good spot for, oh, yep, I saw Tanisha, you come off mute.
Thank you. I just really wanted to just say, again, that we are really hoping that our tools are shared amongst the people and their friends, whether it's the Build Your Ballot or any type of digital piece that we have. It really is, from Committee of 70's perspective, going to be a hyper local kind of wave. It's really going to be about, for me, having conversations with my neighbors on the stoop. It's going to be people, it's going to be my in-laws on their farm, like having conversations at the Grange. Like it's going to be those individual conversations, and we want to put our tools in people's hands so they can make an informed decision and then share that. Make sure that they're informed and they're telling a friend and telling a friend. Really, I think Rochelle had said this earlier, it's not just enough to vote. It's vote and like, what else can you do? We have made really great materials with the League for poll worker recruitment. And so if that's something that people can do, that's amazing. We're also going to have information sessions about being a poll watcher. We encourage that. Go and watch and see what happens. Be informed. It's not threatening. Like we want to make sure that it's open and that it is joyful and that people have the resources to be able to convince others. Because as much as I may think like, I have like a cheery disposition, really fun graphics, I am not going to be the one to motivate someone to go and vote. It is going to be their mother, sister, friend, neighbor. It's going to be that kind of personal connection on a hyper local level. And so we're really hoping, to earlier question that you had asked, like, what do we hope happens? I hope that someone feels compelled and moved enough to be like, this Build Your Ballot tool, available the beginning of March. This is great. I'm going to share this with one person. I'm going to just like forward it and then maybe follow up, or, you send it to 3 people, but whatever it is, like to share the resources and talk about it and normalize how to have these conversations. So C70 has a youth civics department, and we have a Can We Talk program, which helps students from different sides of the political spectrum have difficult conversations and navigate them, not for the purpose of agreement or consensus at the end, but respectful dialogue. And when we start, and for myself, definitely I saw this in my 13 years in the classroom, when you start those skills and build that muscle up young, then it makes it so much easier to have respectful disagreements and productive conversations.
Thank you, Tanisha. And one thing that's come up, I think, in all of your answers so far is the nonpartisan role of sharing specific information. And Rochelle, you also talked about in your initial response, making the case that life is better when you are civically engaged, because these are the policies that actually affect how we live and move and breathe and work. So where does that education come in for you between specific policies and understanding what that looks like and translating that to like nonpartisan work and civic engagement.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, when I started the Black Women's Policy Agenda, one of the first things we did out the gate was to ask Black women what their biggest challenge and struggle is. We wanted them to not only, they get into the crunches and it's the day to day and they're just living through it. But we really wanted them to take the time, first and foremost, to know that someone was listening. Somebody wanted to know. Somebody was paying attention, right? Somebody sees you. But two, to even think about that. What is my biggest challenge? What am I struggling with? You need to know that. You need to understand that so that you can hold folks accountable, right? It's one thing to vote for someone and send them to, an elected office, but then what do you want them to do for you? What do you need them to do for you, right? And if you don't think about that, you don't articulate that, then you don't know what to ask, you don't know what to fight for. So for us, that's one of the important points of doing the training, is to help people understand policy, to help people understand the actual function of these offices, and to really think about what it is that you want these individuals to do, right? So Black women have the highest rate of voting at the polls than any other group in the country, but yet we are also the ones who are experiencing the most crises when you think about disparities and you think about social justice issues, right? Why is that? That's because we have to go beyond the vote, right? We have to hold folks accountable. We have to know what we want. We have to articulate that, and we have to partner with folks that we're putting in office, right? They can't perform miracles. It takes all of us, right? It's a community, right? That's what I mean by collective power. Bring your power with their power, and together we can make a difference. So it's really helping people make connect those dots, because people don't often see. I mean, I get it. Life is hard. Life be lifing, and so sometimes you don't make the connection between this office and what you're experiencing, right, every day, right? And it's too much going on. So you need to take a pause. You need to stop. You need a forum. You need a workshop. You need a training, right? You need literature, right? You need a site. You need somewhere where you can go to educate yourself, to really empower yourself to be a more informed, not only a more informed and educated voter, but to really be engaged, civically engaged. What does that really mean? Take that to heart. And so that's really the crux of, what we want to communicate to Black women, right? Throughout the year, not just, during an election year, but this is an important year. And so we want to make sure that even more importantly this year, as you begin to start to, think about showing up at the polls and encouraging other folks to show up at the polls, what do you want, right? And who is the best person to deliver that for you, right? And so that's really something. It's not about charisma and how somebody talks and what they promise. You know what I mean? Look at the track record, which is why we like, there's a lot of resources now. Now 30 years ago we didn't have as many resources. It wasn't at your fingertips, so you really did have to figure it out. Now it's Google. You can find a lot out about any candidate, their history, what their priorities are, what their values are. You can learn a lot. And so we really do, try to just, provide an all-around education for Black women so they can be more well-rounded civic engagers, right? So it's not just about voting, but it is about really, we're looking for change. That's where change comes. And then we provide opportunities for them to actually put it into practice. So we not only do legislative breakfast, but we do an advocacy action day, right? We take a busload of Black women to Harrisburg and allow them to sit down with their legislators, right? To experience what it's like to be in an elected official's office, to have a conversation with them, to really share their life with their elected officials, to help them understand what their real experiences are, what their real challenges are, so that they know that this shouldn't happen once a year. You can do this at all times, anytime. This is something that needs to be a normal part of your life in order for you to change your life. That's where change really happens.
Michelle, I feel like I say this every time we talk, but I'm so grateful that you are on the GPNP advisory team.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I agree as well, Emily.
Thanks, Sean. So one of the things that you just really beautifully spoke to was the utilization of digital and individual resources, but also bringing folks together. So kind of opening this up to everyone. What does convening and hosting conversations look like leading up to the primary election on April 23rd? And does that look different than the types of engagements or resources that you're planning between April 23rd and November 5th, which is the general election?
Well, the league is really excited to participate in a roundtable that's going to happen with young students from Pittsburgh Public in March. And what is going to happen there is it's going to be like a train the trainer. Those students will then go out into their schools and disseminate information and register people. So we're participating in that, and WQED will be filming that process, and that's happening March 21st. So that's something we do. We do roundtables at universities, and we also, a lot of the discussion that takes place in the classrooms is discussion about how important it is to be involved, not just to vote, and to vote all the time, not just, in what people consider the fourth year, the important one. But we also, I think there is some engagement at the forums, perhaps not as much, but that is something that we are working on with young voters, because there's such a large frustration on their part or dissatisfaction. And so we want to engage them and to work through things. And we have recently made the league in the greater Pittsburgh region free to students from 16 through graduate school. So they can join for free and be an active participant and get out there and register people and come to our meetings if they want. But, and we also usually have programs every month so that people can come and engage in them. And we work with PA for Modern Courts. We work with lots of different people for different programming, as well as our own programming. But I think that's important, and that's a big emphasis in our high school program, that we talk about. It's, you have to figure out what you want from this person, and this is the person, because often people don't know what office controls what, and how to make what is important to you as a young person as opposed to what's important to me or your grandparents or your parents. And we talk about that to get them to think about what they want, and that's a good engagement time for us. It's not just all on the online. We do try to do that.
Who wants to jump in next on the?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
go
can
ahead.
jump in. Just transparently, we're not sure. Like I said, we've been approached about potentially putting on another forum. We're not sure what kind of broad appetite there will be for the same format we did last year, where we had so many local folks running and could get people together. We also do want to be nonpartisan, so it'll be really tough to organize something with just one political party involved. But then, how do you kind of let's be frank, how do you kind of reconcile the bitter divides right now, or what topics or issue areas are we engaging in? So we're open to that discussion, and open to partnering with the folks on the call here and whomever else. Which is, I think, why we've been focusing so much on the media and ways to collaborate in kind of storytelling and highlighting resources that are available. So yeah, if folks have ideas on what a compelling in-person forum would look like, I think we'd get to work pretty quickly on that. But we're still figuring it out.
Appreciate the transparency and opening that up to the group. Absolutely. I think there are a lot of, meet and greet opportunities scheduled and organized different ways that are super effective. So, yes, just kind of raising my hand to say totally willing to partner on that.
The league we do primary, for one party if there are multiple candidates. So we were just talking about that the other day. So there are some that probably will get done, I think, in the primary. But obviously, if there's a presidential event that's not, that's beyond, that would be a national league would be handling that kind of thing. But we also partner with TV stations, WTA, PXI, to work on that kind of thing. But I think sometimes people come to us and want us, we had a great many school boards last time, and we can't do all those school boards, and we try to pick the ones with the most controversy actually to try to do, because it's hard to choose what to do. And it's hard also to get the emails for the people who are on the school board. So.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of brings up another point. You mentioning the list of partners you work with. One of the things that I'm committed to doing this year is sharing a election resources page on the GPNP website for nonprofits who are, to your point, Tanisha, earlier around, interested in sharing information about what that means about becoming a poll worker or, monitoring elections. How can they make sure that the individuals that they serve get that information. So in our weekly newsletter, doing shout outs to the resources that each of your organizations have is going to be a huge part of my task list and event calendar this year. But the other piece too is recognizing that there are other organizations that, you know, do organize these types of conversations, and you've all referenced working with partners. Who are some of the partners that that you've been, you know, developing things with that you want to offer a shout out to real quick to make sure that folks can kind of look at their information and what they're creating as well?
Easy as VEEEM. I know they were going to be here today, and had a conflict, but they do a lot of inspiring work. So I would definitely point people to take a look at what they do.
Definitely have been coordinating a lot with All Voting is Local. I have been on conversations about language access resources throughout the state, on another call with them for detained voters' rights, and then also for before the general, when we have an election officials panel to talk about the misinformation and disinformation. So there's just so many wonderful aspects to the All Voting is Local crew, and I'm definitely want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, I would just throw in One Hood. I mean, they're always amazing. They really have a creative way of getting the word out. They do podcasts, they do different events, and BWPC partnered with them during the governor's race on a governor's forum. And so they, you know, I'm sure we Catapult Greater Pittsburgh as well. In fact, Tammy and I from Greater Pittsburgh, Catapult Greater Pittsburgh just had a conversation. So we're going to be looking to do some joint events and have a joint effort on how we you know, really promote civic engagement over the next several months. But definitely One Hood is a great resource and a great partner. And anyone looking for resources or information, for sure.
Yeah, I have to echo that, Rochelle. We do a lot of work in my organization. And for those of you that don't know me, I run Allies for Health and Wellbeing. We serve the HIV/AIDS community in our region. But One Hood has been super, super great to work with. And they get the message out there. One of their executives was on my board for the last 3 years, and they're just terrific. So thanks for bringing them up, Rochelle.
We've been working with ACAR for re-entering citizens, and also formerly incarcerated citizens, and also incarcerated citizens. So that's a new partnership for us within the last year and a half. And that is a group that we feel like we're getting somewhere with the jail. So we're trying to be persistent and not too pushy, but we want people to know what their rights are. And we often have people tell us that different organizations, you know, or different registration events, that they can't vote, you know, because they have been incarcerated. And we do have a good video on our website about that. So
Michelle, I would love some of your magnets for my food pantry.
oh yeah, where are you at? What location are you?
Our address is 5913 Penn Avenue.
Are you 5913? Are you associated with the Greater Pittsburgh, or are you?
We are.
Okay. And you haven't had anybody give any out there?
As far as I know, I don't know that. So, you know, my pantry manager might already have them. So it might be just worth me checking in with her. But, you know, we have about between 275 and 300 people come through our pantry every month. We're supplemental.
Great. Can you do me a favor and send me your contact information to my email, which is president@lwvpgh.org.
Can you repeat that again?
Sure, lwvpgh.org. And then I'll have it, and I'll pass it on to the person who's in charge of that.
All right, cool.
And then she can send some people down there.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a partnership that we hope to.
I'll see you all later. Sorry that I have to leave early. I have another appointment. Take care. Thank you all again for participating today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Rochelle, I know you had a
Yeah, I
hard
have
stop
to jump
posted
off
too
as
as
well.
well.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so I'm not able to put any information on our website or anything in the chat. So, Emily, if you could share that with the participants, if they want to, look us up on the email, on our website, or give me a call, to discuss anything further. I'm always available. But it definitely was a pleasure to have this conversation. I hope there will be plenty more. This is, one of many. But yeah, looking forward to maybe partnering with some folks on this call as well, as we gear things up. But it was a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Thank you,
Thank
Rochelle.
you. Drive
Thanks,
safely.
Rochelle. You
Bye-bye.
did great. Bye.
Bye. And so just kind of rounding out the Q&A, I had one come in through the chat from Rhonda. Can you talk a little bit more about efforts in Westmoreland County, given state leadership in the Senate and in the county now? I also believe there's a special election in Westmoreland. I believe that question was for Michelle.
Yeah, that actually, I saw that question. We do have a new there's a new league in Westmoreland. They were sort of quiet, and they have revived. And I think Becky Wise is the president of that league. I don't have her email on me right now, but if Rhonda wanted to email me, I could probably get it for you. And I would hope that they're going to do legislative interviews, especially because leadership is in Westmoreland right now. They're trying to be more active, and they were very interested in doing a forum with us because I believe Summer Lee's, some of her district goes into Westmoreland County. So I don't know whether that will take place or not, but that would be, you would want to contact them. We did last year do high school programs in Westmoreland because we had sent these happy birthday posters to Westmoreland, and so they started to call us. And we were hopeful, it hasn't happened yet, but we're hopeful that maybe Westmoreland will do their own high school programs as they get trained to do that. But they would be the ones who would do the legislative interviews. And I think contacting them and asking them to do that would be something that would, are they going to do it? You could ask someone, and they have a packet. It comes from the state. It tells you the questions to ask. It tells you how to schedule it. So it's not like rocket science. And then you report back on what you got out of the state, from there. And I do, that special election, I think, is within the next 2 weeks, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because leadership is concentrated here, and because of that, there's more financial resources than there typically would be. We're just trying to elevate the Westmoreland voice because it kind of gets overpowered by the Allegheny County and the Philadelphia County voice, to be honest. But now that we actually have power in the Senate, as well as congressionally, we just want to maximize that we have a voice and want to make sure it's maximized, and not, to be honest, some of the constituent feedback here as it gets drowned out by Allegheny County and Philadelphia.
Yeah, I would guess to that point when Becky asked us if we would do a forum with her, I'm sure that the first thing that occurred to everybody was that we'll do it here in Allegheny County. But if that might be worth doing on TV, so that it would be carried, across the county line. You get the same channels we do in Westmoreland, I'm sure. So that might be the way to do that. And usually congressionals are, on TV. So it's just, we haven't talked to anybody yet. Usually we let them tell us if they're interested in working with us, WPXI or WTAE, but that probably would be the way to go with that. And then I would encourage, if you can get in touch with Becky Wise, I think it's WYS, I think that's how she spells her name. But if you can get in touch with her, they should have gotten the packets on, interviewing their legislators, which I think would be an interesting thing for them to go and hold people accountable, and you can certainly do it at a congressional level as well, although you probably have less access to that person than you would at the state level. But I think that's a fair thing to ask, and to see, where that person's, the way we outline these, or the way they're sort of structured, is you go and you introduce yourself and you say, this is what the league is very interested in. We're interested in everybody voting, empowering voters. What are your plans for helping with that? So they're pointed kind of like, here, this is what we believe. What's your opinion on that kind of thing? So they changed a bit last year, but that should be something you could certainly do. And we do school programs in Westmoreland County still, I think. and we send the happy birthday posters there. But it is, now that they have revived their league, I think that will be something as time passes, they'll take that over. But I think you could certainly ask them what their plans are.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Rhonda, too. And to our speakers, is there anything, I mean, obviously from that answer, there's like there's so many layers and so much nuance in all of this work, specific to geography and specific elections. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you're hoping to talk about or that you want people to know about? I know, Tanisha, during our first our conversation, you were looking for some feedback from folks. I mean, did you have anything that you wanted to ask the audience, or, what didn't I ask? What did we leave out?
I feel like right now we're still trying to make sure that what we offer as we try and amplify our impact statewide, like we're still trying to ask the right questions. And so it would be more of just like a future survey that we send out to you, Emily, of what do we do well now? And then as we what can we create? Like what gaps can we fill in so that when the conversations are happening on a hyper local level, like we definitely understand, like we began almost 120 years ago in Philadelphia, like we're still physically located there. We are growing and have other, like we have partners who are on the western side of the state, but like still, like we know that we have a lot of space to ground to cover as we start to become more of a statewide focus. So we are just like, those are the questions that we're starting to create internally, and then we want to just like survey and have people tell us the truth, because it's the only way that we'll be able to grow, and then create things that can help to fill in those gaps.
We have a lot of concerns about election integrity and information literacy and people's ability to get their vote counted, and that's a huge concern for the league. And we want people to understand provisional ballots, especially students in colleges. They often get turned away or don't, and we have infographics on that. We have infographics on information literacy, election integrity, and that's something that the league has come close to bringing suit in Allegheny County because of election integrity. So there were some things that happened that made us feel that ballots were not going to be secret, and we pursued that legally. So there are things like that that are great concern to us, and people being discouraged from voting, those kind of things are really still happening in Allegheny County, and we're still very concerned about that. We have a great many of our volunteers also volunteer as poll workers, and they're very knowledgeable, but there still is sort of this ingrained old school kind of, college kids get turned away at certain polling places, and people are told they can't vote for various reasons. They're dropped from the rolls. So those kind of things, like making sure you're still on the voter rolls, making sure that you're still registered, you haven't been moved, making sure your polling place, where your polling place is, all those kind of things are pretty basic, but that happens really frequently. I mean, like the community seems to know, like, oh yeah, it's not at the fire hall, it's somewhere else, but sometimes not all the voters know that. So there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and we're very interested about ballot curing and making sure that misstating something is not going to invalidate your vote. These are things that we are legally involved in. We feel very strongly about these things, because that can't happen this year. That cannot happen this year. We have to feel that this election is secure. We have to feel and know that it is, because people deserve that. That's part of what we expect as citizens of this country. and we're, really working all out for that.
Nothing missing on my end, but did just want to say thanks to each of the organizations for the work you're doing. Helps me feel better about democracy in Pennsylvania, knowing that you're hard at work. And if there's ways that we can be supportive as Pump, please think of us as willing and creative partners, standing alongside you in this season and certainly this year and moving forward. So, and thanks again, Emily, for convening everybody.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for joining us. And I will send a recording out. I was going to say just on the importance of protecting democracy. Michelle, you should use that as like a snippet on your LinkedIn or something. Like that was beautiful. But yes, I would love to continue collaborating as you're growing your list of committee of 70 partners on this side of the state. Keep me in mind, and I'll invite others as well. And I just appreciate everyone spending the time today. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to email me and I'll forward them to the presenters. One thing I do want to say, and Erica, I'm going to call you out real quick. Don't worry, you don't have to come off mute. But just around the level of persistence that's required for nonprofits in the advocacy space, I know that voters feel the same thing. And so when there are little changes to polling location or transportation, it's so easy to become discouraged or to not have the energy or time to be able to take that next step and keep up with it. And so I think, the nonprofit community and folks who are wanting to be more civically engaged have so much in common. And I just appreciate the three of you continuing to help bridge that gap, helping people be persistent and, share your information and expertise with us today. Have a great afternoon.
Invitation. Thanks.
Of course.
Thank you so much for this.
Everybody.
Bye.